everyone. This is Kathie from The Quiet Rebellion, and today we have Faye from Queen Fayzel with us. How are you today, Faye?
I'm doing so well.
Great.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. And Faye makes beautiful cards, note cards that I have purchased and used and have talked about a few times on social media. And so I'm really glad she's here. And we're going to be talking about letter writing specifically today, because I believe that it is a very important part of living a quiet rebellion from modern culture. And so while it might seem a little different than some of the other topics, it is very valid. And we're going to talk to you about why. So Faye, tell us, how do you see letter writing as a tool for quietly rebelling against kind of this whole mainstream culture?
Yeah. One of the most, I guess one of the biggest ways I see it as a way to quietly rebel is that it rejects the immediacy and the 24/7, everyone's always on, the pressure to respond instantly, to be available, to be accessible. Letter writing is just, it is slower. It is a process that requires slower action and thought. We're not tethered to our phone or our computer. We're not hiding behind a keyboard. And thinking specifically about social media, about online interactions, letter writing doesn't have any performative aspect to it.
Right.
We're not writing a letter to tell somebody else about it. We're writing a letter or a note to cultivate a one-on-one connection, and to do that with someone that we love or care about. Like, social media doesn't do that. It doesn't care about that. It's not, there's no algorithm or autocorrect or predictive text to sending a card to someone.
No AI prompts.
No AI prompts. Exactly. You choose your words, you voice your thoughts. They come out exactly like you want them, and they're delivered to precisely who you want to see them, which is just feels very refreshing to me, and does feel a bit, rebellious against that mainstream culture.
Right.
And it's not transactional,
Yes.
Letter writing it's about relationships. It's about connections. It's not about buying something or selling something to somebody. So that's kind of how I see it.
It is. And it is. The thing I always say about letter writing, because I do love to write letters, and I have since I was very young. I have an aunt.
Same.
She is 79, and we have written letters to each other since I was a child, since I was very young. Yeah. And we still do. And so I love that. But I also think that letter writing provides us an opportunity to just slow down and life. But I think the great thing about writing letters is it allows us to slow down, and it is a tiny gift to the recipient.
Yes, absolutely. It is something tactile. They can see, and immediately when you're checking your mail if it's a handwritten card. The shape is different, the size is different. One of the things that I do at Queen Fayzel with my cards is pair all of my cards with brightly colored envelopes, because I want it to be even more when they're showing up in someone's mailbox. This is something special. Here you go. And to see, it's your handwriting on the envelope. You get that, and that somebody was sitting, holding a pen, putting your name on that. And it feels very different.
Right. And one of the things I do often is I will put a sticker. I buy stickers, like bulk stickers.
Yes.
Nothing like, just bulk stickers. Because you can, of course, spend lots of money on stickers, but you don't have to. Just stickers. And just that little simple sticker, either next to their name or even on the back when they go to open it. It just has a little touch. And again, it will show this idea that, this is not a bill. This is something special, and it's for you. And it will, allow you to just kind of sit down with a cup of tea and read your note or your card or your postcard. It's just a nice thing. It's a wonderful thing. I love letter writing.
And the absolute, like when you said, sit down with your cup of tea and read this. And that's exactly what you can do when you write it too.
Yes.
It's time for you, and you're not, at least for me, I can't multitask. Not that we can multitask anyway, but when I'm sitting down to write a card to someone, that's all that I'm thinking about.
That's right.
Like I'm not listening to a podcast and trying to read a recipe or running an errand while I'm making a phone call or whatever. I'm there with that note, thinking about that person, my relationship with them, what I want to say to them. And it's a break.
Right. It is such a great. So there's a couple other episodes that are coming up, or they may come out right before this episode, where I interviewed Jennifer. We talked about wild kindness, and she was talking about like being kindness and also like resting, and resting could just be certain things. And then I was like, resting can absolutely be writing a letter with a cup of
Yeah.
tea. And another episode we're going to do is about beautiful distractions and how like there's so much chaos going on in the world, and we can have beautiful distractions to just kind of calm our nervous systems. And this is a great way to do that because you cannot multitask. You cannot be doom scrolling and writing a letter to someone you love.
No.
So, yeah, perfect. And it will only increase certain joys in your life when you're writing someone a letter because you don't, I mean, well, yes, and we can talk about this too, activism as a form of letter writing. Of course, we can write. But if you're writing to someone you love, it's a very loving and calming thing.
Absolutely. Yes.
I mean, because I write letters to my, my Congress people, and yes, those are not maybe so restful.
Right. Yes.
They're really
Cortisol levels are not going to go down when you do that.
So that's a different kind of letter writing.
Right.
If someone has never been a letter writer, and let's, this is kind of an aside, because I think sometimes when people think about writing letters, they think it has to be like a 4-page thing. And I'm here to say I don't believe that. I think it can be a couple of lines on a card. So
absolutely.
So if someone has never really done this kind of thing before, how would you say they should get started?
Start small.
Yeah.
Exactly like you said, you do not need to write paragraphs. You do not need to write pages. Find a card. Maybe you have something already lying around. If you don't, sure, you can purchase them. But if you're trying not to spend so much, like take a picture from a magazine, stick it on a piece of paper, just find whatever you have and truly write out a few sentences. Share what is happening for you, what you're interested in. Maybe you're struggling with something, or maybe there's something that you want to celebrate. There's news to share, and it can be a few sentences. And then also maybe ask that whoever you're writing to, maybe ask that person a question or two. Right. Give them some space to share when they write back to you,
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the idea. And I will say, okay, so my husband is older and we still get the newspaper delivered like it's 1950. Yeah. I know, but it's, we still do. We get the newspaper delivered. In my local newspaper, I live in a small town. So I understand that like our police blotter is not going to be like the police blotter in a big city.
Right.
Please understand that. And it's actually really funny most of the time. Whoever writes it has a really great sense of humor. And we will often read something and it will remind us of somebody, my father who lives near Pittsburgh, or my aunt, or, his uncle or whatever. And we will cut that out and mail that to them in a little card with just, saw this, thought of you.
Yes, absolutely. That's all it takes. You can, something that you found funny, right? Exactly like you just said. I was thinking about you because, and you don't have to, that's all that it can be. You can just say, I was thinking about you because, and you don't have to say anything else. If you know that someone maybe is struggling or they had a milestone of some sort recently, sure, those are all fine reasons to send a card, but you don't need a specific reason.
Right. Absolutely. And I will say, I know there are some websites where you can find pen pals for people who maybe don't have a family that would be receptive to writing letters or cards. And I will say that you can, when you find somebody that you like and connect with on social media, right? You can ask to write that person a letter, like ask them for their mailing address. Yes. I've done it. I know you've done it. And I have a very good friend who lives in near Asheville, North Carolina, who I met online a long time ago. And we write letters to each other. We definitely, comment on each other's social media posts or whatever. But our main form of communication, unless it's urgent, is through letter writing. And I think that's lovely. Wonderful, right? Yeah. And it's just a really calm thing. And so I think it's a wonderful thing. So I think, you might have to go out on a limb and ask somebody and they may be like, what? But try it and just see. Just try it and see.
I mean, the worst that they'll say is no.
No, right.
And if they say no, then that's fine.
Try
but
again.
I think this is, I think, you asked how letter writing could be a tool for quietly rebelling. And that example is perfect. You meet someone in the ether and then you're like, no, actually, let's take this offline and connect in a different way, because it evolves your connection. It evolves your relationship in a way that online communication can't.
Right. And the important thing to remember is, like you were saying, it's not instantaneous. There's no like, and there's no expectation like that she's going to get the letter and write back to me immediately. And she doesn't have that
Yeah.
expectation of me either. She will write to me, and then I will write when I have the time or the energy or something particular I want to say. Right? I
Yep.
mean, I'm not just writing to say nothing. And so it doesn't have to happen immediately. So I want everyone to understand that. Like, letter writing can happen very kind of free form, and it doesn't have to be a productive activity. Right? Like, you
Yes.
don't have to meet any sort of production goal. You don't have
No.
to. Yeah.
No, definitely not. And it's, yeah, I like what you said about that pace too.
Right.
It can be whatever it is. And I think
Right.
when you get something in the mail, seeing that piece of snail mail arrive, it interrupts our typical time and pace. You know, we know that we see it, and we know that days before, whoever was writing that to us was sitting there, you know, I get something, they're thinking about me, they're writing to me, they're sending their attention and care out into the world. And that happened days before it's even in my hand.
Right. Right. At least, 5 days probably.
Right, absolutely. And then it's like, then it needs to go through the postal system, and then it goes in a mail carrier's bag, and then they hand put it in my mailbox. Like, it completely takes us out of the 21st century world that we're in, kind of. And I love that about it.
Right. And honestly, stamps are not that expensive. I know everyone was always like, oh, they're always going up. And they are going up, but they're still, I mean, you still could not get your thoughts. I mean, yes, you can get it instantly, but you could not get that form of love across the country or across the world for the same price anywhere else. Right?
It's
So,
73 cents.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's nothing. You can't even buy a cup of coffee.
No.
Anywhere for 73 cents. And you can buy a whole book at a time. So, and for people who are Costco members, I happen to notice they were selling them just a smidge off. So if you're at Costco, you have to buy like 100 though. So, but still, they're forever stamps now. So if you can afford that outlay of cash, you will have them for a long time. And they don't even, when the next price hike goes up, you still have them and they're so good. So it's not like it used to be like when I was a kid, like they would raise it by a penny and then you'd have to buy like the penny stamp.
The 1 cent stamp.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. So once you buy it, it's a forever stamp and you have it. You can use it until you don't have it anymore. So don't worry about it. It's so worth it. And I just one other thing about, I obviously buy new cards, but I also will shop thrifts. I like to go yard sailing a little bit in the summer, and I always look for like the little box of cards they're getting rid of. And I definitely use it. Sometimes you can find really fun vintage designs when you do that. Not always, but sometimes. So if you like to do that, be on the lookout for that. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be fancy seashell.
No, not at all. And you can always doctor up cards too. Yes. If you like a certain element of the design but not something else, then cut out a piece of paper or cut out something and stick it on the card somewhere else. Right. I got a note from one of my best friends that was a card. She had cut the front of a card that she received. So she kept the note that was written to her inside, but then reused the front to send to me because it was a cute card and she knew that I would like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really love frogs. I don't people, if people know me, they know I like frogs. And years ago, a girlfriend sent me a card that had a frog on it, and it was like, blowing a little something. Everything about that design, I loved that card. I tore it off and I framed it because I just loved it so much, and it still hangs in the house to this day. So, and I will also say for people who are minimalists or worried about clutter, I don't keep every letter that is sent to me. I read them. I sometimes keep them for a little while because I might want to refer to them or look at them again, but I don't keep them for years or anything like that. They certainly go in the trash. There's someone I follow who's kind of a minimalist, and she was talking about the fact that she gets Christmas cards and then she throws them away. And the comment section was just was horrific.
Oh no.
People were so mean. People were like, you should tell people that you're going to throw them away. And I thought, well, who keeps them? Apparently a lot of people. So really? I don't. Yeah, I don't. And I don't, and I'm not offended if I send you something and you throw it away.
Yeah.
The point was for you to read it. Once you've read it, I'm assuming that you're done with it and you're welcome to recycle it.
Yes. And if you want to hang on to it longer, great, do that. But you don't need to.
Don't have to. Right.
Yeah. And you can also display speaking of Christmas cards, around that time, we get cards from folks, and I put them on a pretty red ribbon and I hang them up around a door frame in our house, and they're up and we look at them and they're there for the season. And then when we take them down, yes, I recycle them.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we do too. We kind of just put them here and there and everywhere, and then they're gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So no one feel bad about that. Like I feel like that needs to be said. Until I saw that, I didn't think that it needed to be said, but I want it to be said because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want that. I don't want that to be the barrier for why someone doesn't write a letter. Like, oh, I have to find space to keep these things. You do not have to find
Absolutely.
space.
Well, and I think that goes along with, when you asked how does someone get started, it's like,
Right.
don't overthink it,
Right.
like you can write a couple sentences, someone will enjoy that. That will be
Right.
important for them. And if they immediately put it in the recycle bin, great. If they hold on to it, great.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's fine.
Right, right. So, because everyone is obviously busy, do you have any advice for folks to like kind of make this a habit of some sort or some sort of a practice or a routine? Because any new thing takes
Yeah.
practice, but how would we do that?
Yes. I think find a place in your day where you're already consistently doing something. So, do you sit down with a cup of coffee or tea in the morning? Do you take a break at lunch and step away from your desk? Maybe in the evening you have a wind down routine. You can write a card in truly under 5 minutes. Yes, if you want to spend more time doing it, you absolutely can. That's fine. But you can write a perfectly wonderful, lovely note in under 5 minutes. So find those few minutes in a part of your day where you have a little bit of space and a little bit of flexibility. And if you have more time, like on the weekends or on your days off or whatever, if you want to take more time there, sure, maybe you're going to write a longer letter on that day, or maybe you're
Mhm.
going to write more cards than the one that you would during the week. But fit it in, I would say first, like figure out the space in your day where you're already having a bit of a pause and just lengthen it by a few minutes to do that writing. And I think too, like have all your supplies handy.
Yes.
So, get your stamps, get your favorite pens or your markers. If you have a stash of cards already, lovely. If not, take a few minutes to pull together paper, envelopes, whatever you want, and then put it all in one place. You can put it in a box, you can put it in a folder or some other container. But if everything is easier to do
Yes.
if all of our items are right there in front of us.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely do that. I have a desk drawer where, and it quite literally one drawer. And like, even my husband's not a letter writer, but occasionally he has an elderly uncle that he sometimes mails things to. He knows that he can go in there and find the stamps, right? And the envelopes and
Yep.
whatever. So it's always right there. There's never any hunting around, and that works well. And you had mentioned doing it. So if you are working and you have to like stay at the office or whatever for your lunch break, like you're in a break room or whatever, or even if you go to like a restaurant or a cafe, that's a great time to write. It's so much better than doom scrolling on your phone.
Oh my
It'll be
gosh.
better for you, right? So I have done that in my life where I've just like before I've left for work in the morning, I quite literally stick a little blank card and I put the address on it and my
Yeah.
my stamp, and then just during my lunch break I write on it and then I can throw it in the mailbox on my way home or whatever. So, yeah, that's a great
Absolutely.
time to do it. And I like to be outside more often than not during a lunch break, but some people, depending on what you can and can't do. So,
Right.
in the winter,
Right.
it's a great way to spend especially a winter break when
Absolutely.
it's snowy and cold.
And it's truly then a break from your
Right.
work,
Yes.
You're taking your brain out of that workspace, out of the screens, out of the desk, and you're
Right.
giving yourself a little reset.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, perfect. And let's talk a little bit about the different types of. I'm saying snail mail, but we're not really talking about care packages so much here. We're just talking
Yeah.
about letters and cards. Care
Yeah.
packages are a whole other thing and expensive, and I like to do those too. But that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, can you just talk to us about like different kinds of snail mail and maybe how we could incorporate different parts of that into our routine in our lives?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the lovely thing about that 73-cent stamp is that you can send a whole bunch of different things with it. So you can send note cards, you can send a flat sheet of something, you could send a letter. Basically, as long as it's 1 ounce and it
Right.
is flat enough to fit through a sorting machine, you can send it. So
Right.
also, if you don't have envelopes, you don't need an envelope.
That's right. You don't. You do not.
You do not. You could take a letter size sheet of paper, fold it in thirds, tape it shut, put a stamp on it. That's good enough. So truly, you can send all sorts of different things. If you do have an envelope, like you were saying, put a newspaper clipping in there, maybe something
Mhm.
from a magazine, maybe you have some stickers, a bookmark, a little something that reminded you of that person. Those little kinds of enclosures are just really sweet. And they also mean that you sometimes can write less, right? If you
Right,
put
right.
something,
It's in there. Right, yeah.
you put a little treasure in there, you don't really even need to say that much.
Right.
Yeah. And you talked too about kind of decorating the outside of
Yeah.
something. That's so fun too. Stickers, washi tape. If you are inclined to draw, you can, decorate, do a little
Right.
sketch or something like that. Basically, yeah, don't overthink it. You can put pretty much anything through the
Right.
mail. And I think sometimes when we amend something or when we decorate it, when we change it a little bit, it's even more special
Oh,
because
I think so too.
it shows a little more time investment, a little more effort,
Right.
and that goes such a long way.
It really does. And you can, yes, you can do just a little bit and it will go a long way. And I will say you can also put a tea bag, one single, like individually wrapped tea bag can usually go in a card with no problem
Yeah.
for one stamp. Two doesn't work. I have found that two doesn't. I've tried doing it where like they're like I tape them so that it's like evenly
Oh, so that
across.
it's flat.
And it's still, but it's not flat enough, I guess. It was returned.
It might also be the weight of it
Right.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
check.
yeah, one ounce is about, if you take one suit of playing cards, so all the hearts or all the spades or whatever,
Right.
and you hold that, that's about an ounce.
Right.
So if you're trying to figure out, do I need extra postage or not, that's one way to do it.
You can also use a food scale. If you happen to have a food scale like
Yes.
in your kitchen, you can use that to generally check it. I know I do
Yes.
for the seasonal whisper mailings. So
Yep.
absolutely do that. And do remember that you can reuse envelopes. If you get an envelope like, from
Absolutely.
some sort of automatic company that mails you something, just make sure you put a label over like all the other stuff,
Yes.
like the barcodes and whatever, because it'll get delivered not to you. They use those barcodes automatically. So but just, be careful. But you can do all those kinds of things. It's a great way to recycle some of that junk mail that you get. You can even, I had a girlfriend in college, granted this was a long time ago, who used to write letters on the back of junk mail.
Funny.
So that's like she would just use the blank back page,
Yeah.
and that's what she would use for her stationery, and that's a great way. So get plenty of junk mail. You make use of it.
No, there's no shortage of stuff showing up. That's very
That's
true.
right. That's right. Now, and I had seen that you had talked a little bit. I had seen some of your notes, and you were talking about maybe using letter writing as a form of activism. So we can let's.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay,
Let's
let's
do
talk
that.
about how we can, because obviously we all can call our Congress people, we can call
Mhm.
our government, but we can also write letters. So, do you have any suggestions for that?
I mean, I think, as you said, you can write individual letters to your individual representatives. There are
Right.
also organizations that coordinate letter writing. One of them is called Vote Forward, and basically they recruit volunteers to write letters to voters in different states for different elections, different reasons, but basically to boost turnout and saying like, hey, this issue is up in your area. It's important because, like,
Right.
go out and vote. So I guess, you can communicate your thoughts and feelings on specific issues to individuals. You can also be part of bigger organizations doing general voter turnout and engagement and activism. And then there's an organization that I have donated cards to called Black and Pink, and it's an LGBTQIA2S plus organization focused on prison abolition. And they
Oh,
have a number of programs, but one of them is a pen pal program.
nice.
So they connect incarcerated people with a pen pal on the outside and then provide cards, provide, the materials for people to have those letter writing relationships. But that is both a very individual relationship, right?
Yes.
Like it's one to one, but it is part of a broader movement and
Right.
organization.
Wonderful. I didn't know about that one. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very fun. Okay, so yeah, so think about it as absolutely using it to connect with people that you love, but also you can absolutely do it as part of your loud rebellion, although it's still going to be kind of quiet, which is nice for the
Yes.
introverts among us.
Absolutely. And letter writing is, so far anyway, still a private form of
Right.
communication. It's not monitored, it's not
Right.
surveilled.
Right.
And so exchanging ideas, documenting experiences, building movements can happen with this as a tool outside of mainstream power structures.
Right. And everything is monitored when you're online. Don't think that it's not. So,
No, and it lasts forever. out there.
Right. Yeah, it does. It never goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just another way to be slightly resistant and not, because I am often like sometimes frustrated. I'm on a local activist group and they use Signal to
Hmm.
chat. Now it's supposed to like, go away after so many days or whatever, but I
Yeah.
don't really believe that, and that's fine. I mean, we're all showing up at
Right.
things together anyway, so it's not like we're really all that secret. But
Yeah.
yeah, so but that stuff doesn't go away, and don't believe that it can't be monitored. And as you're right, as of right now, your letters aren't monitored, and
Right.
yeah, so that's a really great way to do things. And you can. I had a pen pal. We've lost touch, but a gazillion years ago, I had a pen pal, and she used to go on like vacations now and then with her family.
Hmm.
She was a little bit older than me, but she used to like send me pictures, like a whole slideshow of her
Oh,
vacation, like
fun.
actual pictures, and like tell me about it. And that was so fun, right? So you
Yes.
can do all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be online. It doesn't have to be for likes. The great thing is it takes away all that kind of, I mean, maybe people who aren't in business don't have that pressure to feel like it
Mm.
needs to be like relevant, but it doesn't need to be relevant to
No.
anybody but the person that you're writing to. So it doesn't, you
No.
don't have to worry about likes or the algorithm killing it or any of
No.
that. You don't have to worry about any of that. It's,
No.
woo, it's so
It's
nice.
so refreshing. Yes.
Right, right. And so I think we've talked a little bit about this already, but in an increasingly electronic and instantaneous world, right? Like that's the thing. It's not instantaneous, and I love that about it. So
Yes. Yes.
what are some of the benefits of snail mail as opposed to email?
I think one of the biggest things is just that it is a tactile thing. Just seeing someone's handwriting is such a different type of connection, you know? And we were talking about saving cards and letters. I have a few that I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of because it's someone's handwriting and that person has passed on, but I'm
Right.
like, I'm still holding on to that. So when you said increasingly electronic and instantaneous, right? Like there's
Yeah.
nothing electronic about seeing someone's pen on the page.
Right.
And same for us. I feel like we are so overstimulated
Mm-hmm.
that sitting down to write gives us that quiet. It gives us that singular focus and is grounding in a way that a lot of things aren't. You know, you need to physically pick up the card. You're holding the pen, you're touching the paper. You can feel your hand move across the paper as you write. Maybe your pen is making a little bit of scratch on the paper. It's very tactile.
Right.
And that really puts us in a different place
Right.
than holding a phone and moving our thumbs around to send a
Right.
text message, you know?
Right. And the nice thing about letters, at least the ones I write and the ones I receive, are that, if someone makes a mistake, we just scratch it out and write the next, if
Yes.
you spell something really wrong or like,
Right.
wait, that's not what I want.
Right.
So you can do that, and that's a lot of fun, and you don't have to worry about it being perfect.
Absolutely. And I see when I get something and I see that someone has crossed something out, I'm like, yeah, okay. Like
It's real.
it's
Yeah.
real. Like this is true. And I'm a little bit of a recovering perfectionist. And I
Yeah.
used to think that if I had a mistake like that in a card, I needed to start over.
You
And
don't.
and you absolutely do not. Like,
No.
not only is that wasting your card, but
Right.
we're not perfect human beings
Right.
and we don't need to be. And writing with a scratch in the note, a mistake, whatever, it just makes it
Right.
more real and more personal, I think.
Right. I agree. And I know that we've talked a lot, and I know I've mentioned it several times. Like I write letters back and forth to other people, but we should
Yeah.
also know that you don't have to do that all the time. Like I have several
Sure.
friends, who I've met online or whatever, and like if one of them got a book deal recently, and so I wrote them just a congratulations card. I
Yeah.
don't write this person a letter as a normal part of every day. We're not pen pals, but I'm sending them a
Right.
card to just say congratulations. So these are things: birthday cards, holiday
Right.
cards. You don't
Right.
don't feel like you have to do those things, right? Because sometimes I feel like, especially the way maybe some previous generations used to do
Mm.
Christmas cards specifically. I mean, and again, I'm speaking from like my background. So if you're maybe that, other religious backgrounds don't have that so much, but like, and I don't even think that's religious so much as it's just like this really weird societal thing where we have felt like we had to send every cousin who we never speak
Yes.
to a
Yes.
Christmas card. I don't think that I don't do that, and I don't think that we should feel locked into that.
Yes. Yes. I
Send cards when
agree.
you want to send them, not because you
Yes.
feel like you have to.
And also send them. I feel like the unexpected arrival
Mm-hmm.
of a card is even better. You know, like you were mentioning, you sent the congratulations card to someone who got a book deal, right? It's like I had a business acquaintance I mostly know online and saw that her pet passed away. And so sent a card about that. And it's like, I think going back to kind of what we were talking about at the very beginning, like how is this a rebellion? It's a departure, and there aren't expectations or parameters. It's not instant. You can write when you want to and when you have time. And at least I feel, and I think you probably agree, like if I send something out to someone, I have no expectation that they will send me something back, and certainly not that they would send me something back in a timely fashion. Whatever timely fashion means, you know?
Right.
It's truly, I'm sending it out there. Please receive it. It is sent with care and attention. And that is all I want.
Right. Absolutely. And that's how I feel too. I expected nothing from the card I sent. They acknowledged it. They sent me a text message just saying, I got your card. It was so lovely. Right.
Yeah.
That's great. That isn't even necessary for me, but it was nice. And I feel like I would probably do it because it would feel necessary for me to at least acknowledge that I received it. Right.
Yeah.
But I think you don't have to even feel like that's necessary because it is for you. The gift is for you, but it was because I was thinking of you, and it's a gift, and you have nothing. You are under no obligation to do anything else with that. It is a gift.
Yes.
So
well said.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. And is there anything else that you want to tell us about letter writing that we should know before we wrap up?
I think I would just stress again, like, don't overthink it. Just get started. Just do it. It's a really lovely thing. It's a lovely practice for you, for the people that you would send to. Just take a few minutes and get started.
Perfect. Thank you. And tell everybody where we can find you online.
Yes. So I am at queenfayzel.com, which is Queen, Queen, and then Fayzel is Fayzel. And I'm on social at Queen Fayzel. And I would love to see you out there in the ether and then maybe exchange a note with you.
That's perfect. And we will put all of those links in the show notes, of course. Thank you so much for being here, Faye. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kathie. This was really wonderful.
It was. Thank you.